Namaskar. Hello and welcome. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching the brand new presentation by Dialogus, The Worldview. On this show, we'll bring to you detailed and factual analysis of the key events and important turns and twists in the world of geopolitics and diplomacy. Our panel of experts will break down the complex web of information and jargons into simple and effective insights, enabling you to have an informed view of the world. So let's set the ball rolling with none other than the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. President Trump has completed 50 days of his second tenure, and these 50 days have been nothing less than a roller coaster ride for the entire world. From tariffs to Russia-Ukraine war, from tough action on illegal immigrants to shutting down US aid, from threats to take control of Panama Canal, Greenland, Gaza, and even long-standing ally Canada, to drastic cut down in domestic spending by the US government led by his trusted lieutenant Elon Musk. Trump has basically upended the old order at home and radically reordered the international relations. So what does President Trump want? What is the impact of his actions on the global stage? What will the impact be for countries like India, and most of all, what can we expect in the remainder of 4 years of his term? Or can we predict his actions at all? To answer all these questions and understand the dynamics at play, we're joined by two distinguished experts on the first episode of Worldview. Former Ambassador Anil Trigunayat and retired Major General Jagatbir Singh, who is also a distinguished fellow at USI. Let's first begin with diplomacy. And I'd like to start with you, Ambassador Trigunayat. When we talk about diplomacy, one key marquee event which comes to mind as far as the first 50 days of President Trump is concerned is the Oval Office meeting between President Trump and his colleagues with President Zelensky of Ukraine, something which hit the social media circles, made headlines and all that. One simple question which all of us want to understand is, in your understanding, is this the right way to have a diplomatic discussion? That is one. Two, also the decisions which have been taken by President Trump on this issue, siding with Russia one day and then giving more support to Ukraine the other day. Do you think this is going to bring the most sought after, long-lasting peace in that particular region? Will Russia and Ukraine be at long-lasting peace given President Trump's efforts, which he's making right now?
Thank you, Vishalji. At the outset, I would like to congratulate you for this new venture, and I'm quite sure it's going to provide meaningful discussions for your audience. Well, President Trump is a very different kind of a person, and these kind of phenomena happens once in a while. And the second term of President Trump, in my view, was far more predictable than his first term. First term, everybody was going around and trying to find ways. But if you're keeping tab on the interregnum of the 4 years, his statements, his focus has been on things. Maybe it is self aggrandizement or whatever, but he made all those statements. He has continued to do what he has been saying. And as soon as, even before he became the president, if you remember, he threatened both Hamas and Netanyahu to stop the war before he entered the White House. And it did happen on January 19th before he took office. He has also been saying that war would not have ended if not started if I was the president. Then he said I would end it in very quickly, rather, let's say, not put the timelines. And he has been pursuing it from day one. So you have to grant the man one thing, that he is against the wars. He likes to have trade wars. He likes to have different kind of an approach, which is far more unilateralistic. But his worldview, or the way he thinks that he wants to make America great again, begins from this. Now you ask me whether the diplomatic aspect, it's not a natural thing. It is not the way it is done. It is something that, in my view, is mostly done in private and camera. It is not something that you publicly do that, especially when you're trying to achieve something. It was also, in my view, President Zelensky's perhaps immaturity that he continued to confront them while knowing too well that he cannot move one step ahead without the fullest support from the United States. And that's precisely what has happened. Now, he has spoken to Russia, he has spoken to Putin, apparently, he has good relations with him. And in the first term, also, he wanted to normalize the ties. That's another geopolitical dimension that he has. But he, today, as we talk in the 58 days, he has been able to extract that commitment, at least from Zelensky, who has been evading it because of the European support. And European support is also very fragile and not trustworthy. Because at the end of the day, they say if the US is not behind us, we can't support you. So, in that kind
Okay.
of a situation, the poor fellow got stuck. And let me remind you one more thing. President Biden is on record saying that we will fight the Russians to the last Ukrainian. Now, that shows the way, the kind of approach, and that's the way it has brought it to this path.
So,
Now,
so it's
what
yes. I'm saying it has come a full circle, from President Biden saying that we'll fight the Russians to the last Ukrainian, and President Trump ultimately, switching sides and ensuring that both sides come to the negotiating table, peace table. So you're saying he's been able to achieve this in the first 50 days. That is something which is remarkable. Do we call it remarkable?
well, it is remarkable in the sense is because the transatlantic alliance also is under rupture because he's a disruptionist. So he doesn't care. He knows that the United States is the most powerful country in the world. And he has certain ideas which he wants to fulfill, not necessarily to the advantage of the Russians, because his biggest target is still China. And that is going to be in future the biggest challenge for the United States as well. So in order
Okay.
to do that, you need to, that's a different discussion. But in this particular case, I would say it all depends. 30-day ceasefire, that's a beginning. Whether that will yield the equitable results, one doesn't know right now, very unlikely. And so let's see how it plays out eventually. At the moment, Russia must be smiling to the market.
Okay, okay. General Singh, you've written a lot about and spoken a lot about President Trump's second tenure. Now, what Ambassador Trigunayat is pointing out, one, would you agree to this view that it is much easier to predict Trump's actions in his second tenure? Because many experts and, many diplomatic watchers across the world believe that we will have to contend with a lot of googlies from President Trump during his entire 4-year tenure. That's one aspect. Two, when we talk about these wars, be it Israel versus Hamas or Ukraine versus Russia, do you think President Trump's out-of-the-box solutions or out-of-the-box movements or statements are something which might eventually bring these warring factions or warring sides to the negotiating table?
Very interesting question you asked me, and I'll build up from what the ambassador had to say. Now, what we've seen is normally people discuss the first 100 days, but we are taking an exception and discussing the first 50 days of Trump.
Well, it has been such a huge roller coaster ride that we couldn't stop ourselves. In fact, I've seen some Western media outlets, they've been discussing it on a daily basis or some even on a weekly basis as well.
50 days, there's been rapid fire movement on multiple fronts. He signed 80 executive orders, where President Biden over 4 years had signed 160. So you can just see the change that is taking place. He's rapidly dismantling crucial elements of post Cold War, international orders. There's territorial claims being made, economic threats being done, and there's unprecedented. He doesn't care. What I say, all the norms, existing norms, have all gone to the wind. So the first question you said was in the first case of presidency of President Trump. Till now, there's a little difference. First time, nobody understood him. But at the first time, he was more dependent. He was not as dependent. Today, he is far more confident of himself. He has greater support. And all his advisors are far more dependent on him than he is on them. The next change we're seeing is he's got an outside player into, and that's affecting their domestic matters more. Outside player, Elon Musk, again, a surprise element, literally running part of the American establishment. The third thing we're seeing is that there are changes at all levels. There are domestic changes and there are international changes, and the international changes are to do with alliances, to do with wars, to do with trade. So all these issues are there. Now, the interesting point that the ambassador brought out, and that is what I've also talked about earlier, is that one of the reasons why he wants this, ceasefire to take place is because at some stage, the United States felt that Russia and China were getting close together. So in the 70s, you saw what happened when Kissinger and Nixon, broke the ice as far as China was concerned, and there was a departure between China and Russia at that time. Today, it's the opposite being done. So he probably realizes, and I'm sure that is the thing, that the threat is actually the emerging threat, and the threat is in the South China Sea. Threat is from China. So we need to end these wars. So that is the first thing. The second thing is that they've also realized that post World War II, the dominant player in the team, as far as the Western powers were concerned, was US. Now they were dominant as far as their power is concerned, their military might was concerned, as far as underwriting all the bills were concerned, the entire expenditure. Now he is pulling out from that. And he's forcing Europe to stand on its own feet. So this is something which is a major, major change that has taken place. So when the Russia-Ukraine war started, people felt that Russia would enter Ukraine, Ukraine would, be defeated in a matter of days. That never happened. Next, they said the Western Bloc might will ensure, and with sanctions, Russia collapses. That hasn't happened. What has happened is something extraordinary, and that is today there's a sort of a cleavage created within NATO, with US and NATO moving in separate directions.
Separate
And the
directions.
next thing is, yeah, and the next thing is that these talks. Now, I feel that he is still unpredictable. He announces something, he suspends something, he re-announces it, then he raises a tariff, then he suspends that. I think that will carry on. But there's some sort of method in his madness. And the method in his madness, I mean, I may be wrong, is that by announcing things, threatening it, he gets them on the negotiating table. Now, the ambassador talked about that breakup between the meeting on 20th February. Everybody knows about that. But after that, what did he do? He suspended military aid. And more than suspending military aid, he suspended intelligence. Now, without intelligence, they cannot target, Russian assets deep. And later on, the supply chain management for ammunition, for spares would have dried up. So what is, and the
Okay.
Western bloc doesn't have that. So he forced Zelensky to come to the negotiating table. And a similar thing is being done in Gaza.
Okay, you spoke about Gaza as well, and you're saying there's a method in the badness. Looks like Ambassador Trigunayat also seemingly is of the same opinion. But Ambassador Trigunayat, on the diplomacy part, I'd like to bring you in here on three more important elements. That is, President Trump's threat to take control of Gaza, to take control of Panama Canal, to take control of Greenland, offer them, offer to buy them out. In fact, calling a long-standing ally, Canada as well, the 51st, state of the United States of America, and then reiterating that point time and again also. What does this indicate in terms of, leader of the highest ranking leader of the free world, so-called, when we talk about United States of America, the topmost leader, the president of the United States, making those statements? One, they can't be taken lightly, but if they're taken very seriously, then what is he hinting at?
Well, I think that the President Trump, as his own, he starts with a maximalist position whenever he does. I mean, in his method of madness, that's how you find out that when he sees that going getting a little tougher, so he starts with, let's say, 200%, 100%, and then goes down to 25%, or even suspends. That we have seen in tariffs. As far as requirements and this concerned is, we might clearly say that this is encroachment on territorial integrity of certain countries. How he is looking at it. He is looking at it as how he can strengthen the security of the United States per se. Now, look at Panama Canal. The Panama Canal, he wanted to take over. He has not taken over. What he has done is BlackRock has purchased all the ports there, which were earlier were being given to China. He has got his problem was China there because Chinese are running all the ports. So he has taken over $63 billion in 50 days. This has been happening. As far as Greenland is concerned, then Danish and everybody else will say, but eventually they're all going to negotiate something because he wants to utilize that for the Arctic strategy. Now, what has happened? The local political party, which used to have about 10% of the support, is today at 40% because the pro Trump and pro US party is already gaining ground there. Now,
Mhm.
as far as Mexico is concerned, I mean, that's very strange because I remember I was in New York those days as trade commissioner when they signed the NAFTA agreement in 1992. And thereafter, in his last term, he revised it again, their advantage. And the third time again, he's trying to revise that treaty. So he virtually ended that North American agreement, trade agreement in that sense of the term. So I mean, the international rules and regulations have never applied to the mighty. We have seen it.
Okay.
Okay.
It has been, you see in South China Sea, everybody is talking about free and open Indo-Pacific. China has signed the UNCLOS. It violates every day. United
Mhm.
States has not even signed for it, and it talks about it. In the International Criminal Court, they are not the members of this, they are not accountable for it. He walks out of the Paris Agreement, he walks out of the World Health Organization. So today, the international rules, regulations, law as it existed, in which the US was the main arbiter, is no longer valid. So everybody is on their own, frankly.
So the international institutions or the organizations which were built with America's help, or with America taking the lead over the past 7, 8, 9 decades, are you indicating that those organizations, those multilateral platforms are slowly fading away because United States of America is gradually and swiftly moving away from its position on them? Is that what we are looking at?
But unfortunately, the multilateral organizations are losing all their sheen. They have refused to reform, and this is the end of it.
Okay, okay. General Singh, two aspects here. One is the new world order. What kind of new world order are we going to look at with the kind of decisions or the kind of steps which are being taken by President Trump? And in this also, I would like to specifically point out, the tariff wars. It looks like President Trump has a much larger and a significant economic agenda rather than a territorial agenda, or maybe a sort of a agenda which involves armed forces. Am I right?
You see, I've always said that, today things are changing by the minute. So even wars today are being fought on multiple dimensions. Today you have to have a whole nation approach. So what you're saying is one thing is kinetic force, the other is non-kinetic, and non-kinetic is manifesting itself in myriad ways. And one of the ways is this threat of trade, tariffs, increasing the tariffs. So that's another way. But the other reason why he's doing that also you have to understand. And before I come to that, a point that the ambassador said is about these weakening of the multilateral agencies. So that multilateral global architecture, is it valid today? You've seen the two wars. What role has the United Nations played in this? Who are the people who are seeing to peace? Where does UN come in? Today, when a country is either a member of the United Nations P5 or is backed by a member of United Nations P5, I'm saying Russia and Israel.
Even the resolutions passed in the United Nations are always one-sided.
Get away with anything. So, I mean, these are all, I mean, these are being exposed, though India has been talking about this. Actually, look at it that way. So now we come on to the other issue. Look at West Asia. Again, President Trump, he made that statement that it should be converted into a Riviera. And all the Palestinians over there should be just subsumed into the Arab countries. Now, that's a maximalist position. But what he did was he forced the Arab nations to get together in Cairo to discuss the future of of Gaza, to pledge $53 billion to rebuild it. So, is he shifting the responsibility of conflict management to them, which they should also hold? And the other problem you'll have is with Iran. So, I mean, these are all issues. Now, as far as tariffs is concerned, there is he is under the feels and Americans feel that they are today more of they're importing more than they're exporting. So they want to turn this around. And they felt this global chain, disruption in this when COVID took place. So that's exactly what he's saying. And he's trying to say that how much you charge me tariffs, I will charge you that amount of tariffs back. But the problem of tariffs and all that is, I'm not an economist, so I can't say, but I'm just saying, say if a good is worth 100 rupees and you put 50 rupees tariff, it will be worth 150.
Indeed.
But unless you can manufacture that good cheaper than 150, that money, I mean, you'll either be importing it at a higher price or you'll be paying more for manufacturing it in your own country. So the consumer will suffer. Inflation will go up.
Okay, let me bring in Ambassador Trigunayat on this. Ambassador Trigunayat, when we're talking about the issue of tariff, the tariff war or the statements which have been made by President Trump vis-a-vis, reciprocal tariffs on Mexico, Canada, China, even India as well. One thing, are we right to assume or understand it this way that perhaps President Trump's hand is forced by the domestic economic situation? That's one aspect. And second, we would like to understand, is he trying to take on China the economic way? Because as both of you are saying, that looks like it's the next big, turf war is going to be between the United States and China. For US, China seemingly is enemy number one. Is that the right way to put it?
Actually, both the points you mentioned are correct. The first one is the domestic situation, because as General Saab said about the meeting between King Kissinger and Nixon in 70s, and that has led to the China's rise to this extent that it has become a single most important country in the world as far as global value supply chains are concerned. So the continuation, this trade war with China or the tariffs, whatever, is the policy that is continuation of his first term. And Biden continued with those policies, and the Trump has picked up from here. So at the same time, he is also giving chance to China create some kind of a G2 deal with them. Now, tariffs are always a double-edged weapon, but how he is looking at it, let me just try to explain. He is not looking at it. He's saying all his American companies, other countries, and you just look at it. The Japanese prime minister was there, and he committed $1 trillion investment into the U.S. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, when he spoke to him on phone, the petrodollars were all going to China and elsewhere. They have agreed to invest $500 billion back into the US. Now, with most countries, he has something to show in his 50 days, as we are talking about. He is forcing countries to come and manufacture within the country. And what is he thinking about it? He's created a new custom service, border tax service. That border tax service, whatever 50%, 100%, 10%, he's putting the taxes, he's collecting it and thinking it's a revenue. So for that revenue, although the cost of inflation might go up, we will perhaps see the cost of things going up in the country. He wants to make the oil the cheapest in the country. That's why his drill baby drill thing. So he has some kind of a plan. It is not disjointed totally, but he starts with a maximalist. So we should take it in that. Okay, today he's saying India. He calls tariff king repeatedly. Every day. Even today, that lady, his spokesperson, showed a chart in which she was showing about Canada. 300% on certain products, India 100%. So every time it is coming. Now we are also hopefully this trade deal will be agreed, and we can have a 0% tax from both sides. That's quite possible.
Okay, so you believe, Ambassador Trigunayat, that as far as these tariff wars are concerned, and India is concerned on this particular issue, there is a way out for us in which we also have a win-win situation.
It has to be a win-win situation, and he is not really going after us in the same acidus manner that he has gone after some others.
Okay. General Singh, now that we're talking about, the impact of Trump's decisions or, stakes which have been raised by him on various aspects and its impact on other countries or other economies, specifically we are talking about India. When it comes to, defense ties or the defense exports and defense import issue, how do you think India should handle the situation here? Because some very explicit and significant statements being made from the United States as far as India's defense, imports are concerned, trying to push through U.S. defense technology, pointing out very clearly that it's time for India to move out of the Russian ambit and go in a more stronger embrace with the United States of America.
Okay, so the first point I'd like to say is that India was moved to the Russian ambit for a reason. And that reason was that post the 1965 war, where both India and Pakistan were armed with US weapons to a degree, US imposed sanctions on India and Pakistan at that time. As a result of which, India moved towards the Soviet Union for their defense wherewithal, and Pakistan moved towards China. So this is a fact. The other fact is, which is everybody knows, our defense industry, that is the defense PSUs, were not able to deliver the weapons that India required at the prices India required and the manner in which India required. Till today, you have the problem of the aircraft engine. Till today, you have problems of tank engines. So we were able to get the items we required in the quantity we required, in the quality we required from the Soviet Union at that time. Now, the bulk of our inventory today is of Soviet origin or Russian origin equipment. And let me say, it's not only when I say Soviet origin and Russian origin, today large number of items even come from Ukraine. So your AN-32s came from Ukraine. Your the gas turbine engines for the ships came from Ukraine and still come from Ukraine. So that is there. But we have improved to a large degree our relations as far as defense goes with the United States. And that is manifested in many ways. Training is one, purchase of equipment is another. So we realized that we had to break out of just being reliant on one country, and we went to France. France has been with us throughout. Uh, then we started buying items from Israel, and now we started buying a large number of items from the United States. But for a country to suddenly switch entirely to one vendor is not practical. The next thing is that the focus, and this has come out clearly in these wars. Today, anybody who's supporting you from outside can cut that link. So your focus has to be on being self-reliant, on building your own capabilities. Now, to what extent you can build your own capabilities, for that you must have the private players in, you must have the public sector in, you must have your research and development in, you must have your quality assurance in, and you must have your users in. Now, when these five get together, you will have to build it. But all the technology may not be available, so you have to have JVs with certain foreign countries. So next is, like everybody talks about, is this aircraft, which when Prime Minister Modi met President Trump, he tried to sell us the F-35s. Now we have been buying aircraft. We bought the uh, B-17, the Globemaster. We bought the C-130. We bought helicopters. We bought drones. But we haven't bought the fighter aircraft from US till date. But that's a long-term thing. I mean, they have to have the comparatives done with the other aircraft of a similar thing available, and the costing done, and what deliveries will take place, what are the things. So we, as a country, India has diversified, and America is one of our main partners as far as our defense goes. So we have very close relations as far as defense goes with them, and that will only get stronger by the day. And we signed a large number of agreements over the years with them to strengthen these ties.
Okay, so it looks like, the gist of what you're saying is that India should not keep all its eggs in one basket. We will have to, look at all options and, of course, sort of develop our own self-reliance in a way that we can meet our needs also. Now, quickly, before we bring this, interesting discussion to an end, one question which I cannot help but asking both of you, and I would like to have 1.5 minute, a quick answer from you. I'll start with you, Ambassador Trigunayat, and that is something being talked about a lot in Western media, in Eastern media as well, by all experts are pointing out, that is the relationship between President Trump and his trusted lieutenant, Elon Musk. businessmen, successful businessmen. People say, some experts say that Musk is acting as an henchman for President Trump. All kind of decisions which have been branched out to Musk, perhaps the statements coming in, and President Trump breaking all kind of stereotypes as well. There was an article which I was reading which said that White House has been turned into a Tesla showroom now.
But whatever you may say, at the outset, President Trump has been a successful businessman himself. So his psychology, his way of working is like the CEO style. So that's why there are several billionaires in his cabinet. And it's not only Elon Musk, there are others also whom he has taken over. And Elon Musk at least has done something good. I mean, let's not always criticize everybody. They have to decide it's their government. But generally, if you see the Doge growth, what they have exposed, I'm a 350-year-old person also getting pension in the country. I mean, billions of dollars are funneled off. So I think what they're trying to bring about, which is very necessary in every government to see whether the functional efficiency can be brought about, bureaucratic this thing. Trump has seen in the first term, that is that the deep state in the United States, and General Saab also mentioned that there were known people who was in government whom he fired several times. Now, this time he has chosen people who can be his team, not against him. And so he is getting the work done that he wants to be done. And so Elon Musk will be there as long as President Trump wants it. Because at the end of the day, the President of the United States is almighty, at least for the next 3-4 years.
Okay. General Singh, do you agree that we should watch out for Elon Musk and his statements and his actions as much as we should watch out for what President Trump is saying or doing?
I agree with what Ambassador Trigunayat had to say. And President Trump has demonstrated time and time again his willingness to shatter norms. And what has he got? The larger than life figure today in the form of Elon Musk, who a lot of people are saying is, maybe heading the Department of Government Efficiency, but he's going around, and there's a photograph of his the other day with a chainsaw literally cutting through the flab, or, where he felt that money was being misused or misspent, and, cutting apartments and all that. But this is entirely an internal matter as far as the American policy goes. But what it does show is that over the years, how these big businessmen have started exerting greater power as far as the government policies go. Now, that's something that is there because these are very rich, big billionaires, so to say, and they have now, he supported President Trump in the elections, and now he's got a pride of place in the White House, and his son also was playing in the Oval Office. I mean, that's something to see. And he is now exerting influence. Now, bulk of the American media say it's extraordinary influence. So that's something which is entirely up to America to figure out. But yes, he is extremely influential today as far as the presidency and this administration is concerned.
Okay. So we'll have to keep a close watch on all the developments there as far as both Elon Musk and President Trump are concerned. Thank you so much, gentlemen, Ambassador Trigunayat and General Singh, for joining us here on the first episode of The World View and helping us understand the intricacies of 50 days of President Trump's second tenure, the decisions being taken by him or the decisions which have been overruled by him, sort of upending the domestic order as well as international order in various aspects. We'll come back again next week on another episode of Worldview and bring you detailed analysis of another key or important geopolitical issue with global significance. Till then, keep watching Dialogus. Thank you.